Right, it's time to start. Welcome to the MANET session at IETF 124. Since we are more or less in French-speaking territory, we will pronounce it as MANET and not as MANET. We have the Notewell. You may have seen it before. It's a Notewell in a new format. It's about things that you should have already agreed to when you signed up for participating in this meeting. You leave it up for a while so you can maybe quickly read it. It's about behaving well towards your fellow participants. It's also about IPR rules that should be followed. If you haven't seen the documents that it's referring ever or for a while, it may be wise to revisit those. Meeting tips, you probably also know this by now, the fourth day of the meeting. Resources for this IETF. And so resources specifically for this MANET working group session. Here's our agenda. We're currently at the first item. We would appreciate if somebody could take some notes. If not, then we will go with the transcription, the AI tool that processes that, and the recording to create our minutes. But a note taker will help. Next up is the document status. Then we have a combined presentation on MANET interworking by Daniel Jakobicin and Fred Templin. Then I will be revisiting an old presentation by Lou Berger and Rick Taylor from IETF 110. And I will explain why I'm revisiting that presentation and why now. And that should hopefully lead to some discussion on a way forward or, with regard to the issues that were identified in that presentation. And then we will have a wrap up. And that's the end of the meeting. We requested a 1 hour slot. We got an hour and a half, so we should have plenty of time. Lou is going to close the door. Thank you very much. When we requested our time slot, Donald put in the request. I thought that's looking good, and that was my mistake. My brain was not working because I forgot to note that we now have the tip-top working group, and that's actually a technology conflict for this working group. So we will try to do better in future and list tip-top. Because now we're against tip-top and it means that, for instance, Rick Taylor cannot be here. On to document status, the credit-based flow control cluster of 4 documents that has been with us for a long time, has now also been in the RFC editor queue for quite some time. Yesterday I was looking and it said 216 days. So I thought, the meeting is tomorrow. I will write 217 days. I looked again this morning and it was still 216 days. So not really sure what happened there. Anyway, the documents, all 4 of them are now in the ROC editor state. That's where the red arrow is pointing. The next state will be auth 48. So they should be coming out, hopefully, relatively soon. I'm not sure that we will have them for Christmas, but we will see. Then we have 4 DLAP extensions related to physical layer information from the modem/radio. We put those through working group last call a month ago, I guess. There were some comments. The author, Henning Rogge, posted new revisions. I was a bit late with my own comments, especially on the radio quality draft. There's still some discussion going. We hope to resolve that, and then they can also be on their way out of the working group. Don Fedek, my co-chair, is the shepherd for these documents. Then we have 3 individual drafts related to the MANET working group. We will have a presentation right after this on the inter-networking aspects of MANET. There is the draft by Christopher Deerloff on a slight extension in the behavior of OLSR v2, making it less chatty in circumstances where that can be helpful when there's not that much node movement. It does not define any new protocol formats. It's just a description of a change in the behavior where it triggers the sending of a topology control message under certain circumstances. Then there is Charlie Perkins' work on AODV v2. Charlie gave a presentation on the implementation status at the previous IETF. For all 3 of these drafts, we could use more reviews and comments on the mailing list. The AODV version 2 draft is the biggest by far. It's yeah. I am still working on it to do my own comments on that one. I think I will be busy with that over the holidays. It means also looking up some of the old comments and see if they have been addressed. And then we can see if there's any further work to be done on that one. Yeah. Christopher Deerloff draft I have read. It was quite a pleasure to read. It was vintage Christopher Deerloff style, if I can say so. Very long, well-crafted sentences with lots of subordinate clauses. I think this is something that we can adapt soon. Adopt soon. As it falls under OLSR maintenance and extensions, and is in the current charter. Okay. Christopher?
I was just going to say, despite your kind comments, subordinate clauses are my weakness.
Okay. Thank you. And then there's some new work coming our way. We discussed this a little bit in the charter discussions that we had in the last few MANET working group, MANET working group meetings at previous IETFs, and I've been in contact with the authors to be. They couldn't produce an internet draft for this meeting because of their workload, but they are aiming to have something ready before the next IETF, IETF 125. And this will be a Yang model called the MANET Awareness Model, or MAM. So that's it for the chair slides. Oh, yes, good point. My co-chair just reminds me that for these drafts, we were going to ask the audience how many people have read these documents. And okay, do we do this for all three of them, you think, or just for the first two?
Well, let's try one. I'm just trying to set up a poll here. Draft beer love. Hold on a second. I'll output the question. Well, how many have read Draft Dear Love? First, we'll do how many have read Draft Dear Love? You should see the poll there. All right, we got 21 people and we got 6 votes. Give it another 10 seconds.
That may include the Clippers.
Oh, that may include the Zula people who,
Yeah.
okay. All right, thank you. And then same, I'm gonna start another one here. In favor of adopting. All right, and so if you could, if you're in favor of adopting that as a work group item. All right. I think that's about the same number of voters. Thank you. And so the number is 6 yes, no no's, and 2 no opinion. All right. And then for the template, I think we should, it's early, we should just get people reading it. So was there another draft you wanted to do?
That one after the presentation.
Okay. All right, I'll prepare it.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
For the couple of these early ones, why not also ask if there's interest in the documents, which is different than adopt or not adopt.
Right. Yeah.
You may not be interested even in discussing the topic.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Well, let's do it after the presentation.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll go on to that presentation. Now, take away the bottom. Yeah. So the which presentation are we doing now? The is it yours or?
No.
Okay. So that's the internet. Yes. Okay. Got it. All right. And I'll give you control, Daniel.
Okay, do I need to request that or, oh, I see it now. Excellent. Okay, well, thank you so much. Are we ready to go?
Yep.
All right. Well, this is my first IETF meeting, so thank you for the welcome. It's great to be here presenting alongside Fred Templin. So my name is Daniel Jacobeisen. I'm a research associate professor at Virginia Tech and specifically a member of a group known as as shown here, the Virginia Tech National Security Institute. Fred and I have been working together for a couple of years now, and this contribution has come out of some of that discussion and collaborative work. And so this is the presentation for the MANET internetworking topic and covering problem statement and gap analysis. And in particular, wanted to spend a little time on use cases as well with this document, and that's the portion that I'll present, and then I'll hand it over to Fred for some of the details on the gap analysis part of the document. Okay, so let me progress to the next slide. Okay, so to start off with, wanted to just kind of give the general, generic diagram of what we're talking about here. And so this diagram illustrates a MANET internetworking case in which you see the bottom left-hand side of the figure shows the first MANET in the blue cloud. There is in the middle upper portion of the figure the public internet represented, and then a second MANET on the bottom right, also in the blue cloud. And this represents a scenario in which we may have a MANET capable node that desires to route traffic. It's participating in the left-hand MANET shown there in the bottom left, and it wants to communicate with a node that's in MANET 2 on the bottom right, or reachable via MANET 2. And we have also shown in green here internetworking nodes, so gateway nodes that are capable of communicating across domains and serve as the points of interconnection between the MANET and the public internet, or could be between MANET 1 and MANET 2 if they're within range of each other. And so that's the general scenario. And then kind of based on that scenario, we've created a couple of use cases that we think motivate this work. And so I'll go through those. In general, we see a kind of across the board, both in academic and industry circles, there's interest in MANETs and use of MANETs in emergency response communications and disaster relief situations, and communications where maybe rural or remote, so access to fixed infrastructure is challenging. Certainly in military operations, we see the use of MANETs. And maybe a little bit of a newer use case in vehicular or swarm communications could be terrestrial or air-based vehicles. And another one is low-powered Internet of Things applications, and we'll talk a little bit about that as well. MANETs can provide the ability to internetwork or to communicate with fixed infrastructure like a 5G cellular network if the particular node that is the endpoint of that communications doesn't have access to, let's say, the 5G network itself, could use the device-to-device communications capabilities to reach fixed infrastructure. As described here, it can provide internet connectivity to nodes that are internal to the MANET, and so this is kind of in a stub network style communications for internetworking. The first use case focuses on the disaster relief scenario, and so in this case, the MANET network is to play a role in closing coverage gaps. So multi-hop routing across the MANET would be used to provide access to a node that cannot otherwise reach the fixed infrastructure due to the disaster scenario. So here's a quick just kind of visualization, illustration of what this might look like. And so if we have, think of some of the recent scenarios in which there were on the West Coast, some of the quite substantial fires that affected fixed infrastructure, or in the East Coast we had with Hurricane Helene, some of our fixed infrastructure affected by that disaster. And so you have a number of devices that are now out of coverage of maybe a 5G network or Wi-Fi routers that would otherwise have been there. And so the ability to then extend the coverage of the network base stations that are still viable through device-to-device communications, and that could be through higher power devices that might be representative of vehicular nodes, or device-to-device in terms of cell phone to cell phone, if viable, to allow nodes that now have lost coverage to maintain some amount of critical communications, probably low throughput, but could support vital communications in this dead zone. And that's the first disaster scenario. So going to the next. The second one is around tracking shipments. And in this case, considering low power devices, for example, like an IoT device that might serve as a tag on a package that's being shipped, and for companies that may want to then track those shipments as they traverse their shipping route. And so here's again an illustration of this use case. So as a shipment is traveling along its route, I chose a Google Images map from Montreal, given the location. But we have this IoT tag on the shipping package. It may be because it's within a shipping container, it might not have good service or be able to communicate with the fixed network infrastructure for periods of time. But if it comes in range of a MANET-capable device to do device-to-device communications, and to take advantage of that as a pathway to communicate with fixed infrastructure and out to the public internet is another use case. And so that this package can then report its location via this MANET extension. And then finally, the use case of a UAV swarm. And so in this case, if we're considering maybe a large swarm in which you could route, use MANET routing to traverse the UAV swarm in a device-to-device type capability, that might suffer from loss of link connectivity if the MANET is quite large. And so if we can take advantage of communications to fixed infrastructure, and so I'll use again the illustration here of establish connection to a 5G base station through some portion of the MANET, and use the public internet or the network providers fixed assets to then have that packet transfer to a base station that's within closer communication range of the endpoint. This could provide more reliable communication. So in the illustration here, within the left-hand MANET cluster, we have a device that wants to communicate with a node that's on the right hand of the screen here, also highlighted. And so rather than traverse the gray path, which is all based on MANET to MANET hops, if we have an internetworking capability, the MANET node on the left can communicate with the MANET node on the right using a combination of routing through fixed infrastructure, and then maybe still has some device-to-device hops on the right-hand side. And so these use cases motivate some of the challenges that Fred will present in just a second when it comes to establishing globally unique addresses. And the vision for this is to see this type of MANET capability in more nodes, whether these be cell phones or nodes such as vehicular or UAV nodes, where the radios can have this embedded MANET capability and capability for node discovery and capability for addressing to support this in kind of on an as needed basis. So that's the quick discussion on the use cases, and now I'll hand it over to Fred for the discussion on the gap analysis.
Chairs, can you give me the slide control?
Sure.
I see it now. Thank you. So the draft is organized into a set of problems and the discussion of the problems that are faced with for MANET internetworking. The first problem is that we need some form of MANET local addressing, which would be a unique IP address for MANET local communications within the MANET. The IP prefix of scope greater than link local, but not associated with infrastructure aggregation points, because infrastructure aggregation points may only be intermittently available or not available at all. And so we need a globally unique address among all MANET routing domains worldwide in case the MANETs ever join together. So we consider the MANET networking therefore regards the public internet as a network of mobile ad hoc networks. And that exposes the full world of population of MANET local addresses as potential duplicates. We have to avoid duplication of addresses at all costs. And so this is one of the problems we face for MANET local addressing. Then in terms of auto configuration, MANET nodes need some means of auto configuring global scoped IP addresses and prefixes that are properly routable by network elements accessible from the current point of attachment to the internet when an internet attachment point is available. But we know that because MANET routers might be multiple IP hops away from the internet connection sharing peer, they can't use standard auto configuration services like IPv6 neighbor discovery or DHCP-v6 because they're link scoped in nature. So there have been two ways suggested about how to get around this. In a first method that's conducted directly over the MANET interfaces, first top neighboring nodes with MANET collectively participate to repeat the link scoped auto configuration discovery requests to other neighbors that are topologically closer to an internet connection sharing node. But in a second auto configuration method, the nodes configure a virtual overlay multi-link interface over the physical MANET interfaces, and then they can issue standard link scoped IPv6 neighbor discovery or DHCP-v6 requests over the virtual interface itself, and they just work as normal, even though they're link scoped in nature. The virtual interface makes it look like a single link. So for MANET internal communications, two nodes located within the same MANET routing region should be able to communicate across multiple hops if necessary, using these MANET local addresses that we talked about in problem 1, with no external infrastructure reference points. So what happens if a MANET peer wants to talk to an internet correspondent, though? It can use one of its mobility service provider aggregated IP addresses obtained through auto configuration and the global IP address of the internet correspondence as the source and destination address for packets. What that means is that the MANET node does not need to have its address registered in the DNS, since the internet correspondent will discover the address by examining the source of received packets. When an internet correspondent wants to talk to a peer inside of a MANET, it needs to consult the global DNS to determine the IP address for the MANET peer. That means the MANET node has to somehow arrange to have its IP address advertised in the global DNS. The IP address is covered by delegated prefixes remain stable across MANET-weighted mobility events to the point that continuous dynamic updates to the DNS would not be necessary to maintain uninterruptible communications. So it's very important that a mobility service keep track of that MANET node wherever it happens to roam to, whether it's in the same MANET or moving to a different MANET, to make sure that its IP address and the DNS remains stable. So now this goes back to the diagram that Dr. Jacob Bison gave in his first chart, which is what happens when you have a MANET node in a first MANET wanting to talk to a MANET node in a second MANET using the internet as transit. So when the internet's used as transit, both peers need to include their IP addresses in the global DNS. And the mobility service is then responsible for ensuring that the peer remains reachable at its stable IP address, even though there might be distributed mobility management involved. And then finally, we look at the case of stub MANETs and not so stubby MANETs. When an internet connection sharing MANET router connects a stub MANET, it can either publicly delegate a public IP address to the stub MANET nodes or delegate private IP addresses and apply network address translation to allow the node to get out to the internet. The stub MANET may configure a local overlay that regards the multi-hop MANET as a single unified link. In that case, the sub-MANET network overlay link is distinct from the overlay link that spans the global public internet, and the two links are joined by the internet connection sharing node acting as an IPv6 router. In the not so stubby case, the virtual overlay link extends from the internet to also extend over the MANETs themselves, and so that it looks like a single link, and all nodes on that virtual link, whether they would be in a local MANET or a remote MANET, would appear as first hop neighbors in the link. So this is the last of my charts, and this is where we would normally insert a chart that talks about next steps. And so I think we should probably throw it open for discussion at this point about next steps for this document. And you know, it's I think very early in the game. You're just now becoming familiar with this document, but hopefully through this presentation, you'll have some sense of what we're talking about for MANET networking, and we can have some discussion about it either on the list or here in the working group. That's all I'll say for now.
Thank you. Yeah, as Lou had suggested, I think we should have a show of hands to see if this is a topic that people think the work group should work on first. Sound good to you?
Just to be clear, you're asking about the topic of MANET to MANET, not the anything about the approach being proposed. Is that correct? Or are you saying the proposed approach to this topic? Which question are you asking?
That's a good point. So well, help me word it then so that we get it right. We have the gap analysis and then we have the solution for it, right?
So MANET, are you interested in working on MANET to MANET interworking? I think that's question one, right?
Okay.
If I could qualify that a bit, it's not just MANET to MANET, it's MANET to internetwork to MANET. So it could be MANET to internet correspondent or internet correspondent to MANET, or MANET to MANET using the internet as transit.
I think that's a separate question. An equally valid question, but a separate one.
Go ahead, Stuart.
So Fred, I was taking notes as fast as I can, but it wasn't clear to me how need 6 was different from need 3. So could you revisit need 3, throw that slide up again for a couple more seconds?
Need 3 is for when two nodes are in the same MANET and are using device-to-device multi-hop within the local MANET and not using the global public internet as transit, staying within the MANET, not going on to the public internet. Need 6 is when the nodes have to use the necessarily have to use the public internet as transit.
Okay, I opened the poll. Excuse the spelling mistakes. You can't see everything you type. So the first question we have for the poll is the topic of MANET to MANET internetworking, a topic that the work group wants to look at. All right. It's pretty unanimous.
Lou Berger, can I ask a qualifying question on the definition of MANET to MANET over internet? Do you mean internet or do you mean wired infrastructure?
Should I respond to that?
It's a question to you.
Okay. The reason we say internetworking instead of internet is because it could be any form of global public internetwork, whether it's the global public internet or whether it's some private operator network or some kind of other long range network that would be a backhaul uses transit. So we don't mean to say it's got to be the internet. It could be any internetwork.
Yeah, I guess I'm getting caught up because the MANET itself could be an internetwork. So I guess I'm getting caught up in that usage of term. Which problem was that? Was that number 4? If you don't mind just showing the slide.
I can't go through the slides. Yes, I can. Let's see.
No, I guess it was 5. I'm sorry, I don't remember the number.
This is the one where we have peer-to-peer between different MANETs using the internetwork
Right.
as a transit.
Oh, that's the, okay. I'm lost in your breakdown, but that's okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Just so there was a second question you had posed, Lou. Do we with an internetwork or the internet?
That's the clarification I was looking for. So Fred presented as an internetwork. It's an interconnect,
Right.
a non-MANET interconnect,
Okay.
or non-MANET interconnecting network, I guess, if you want to say it really verbose.
Which could include a tunnel over the internet.
That's very true.
See what I'm typing. Oh, there. So the second question is a MANET to MANET using a non-MANET internetwork to work. Is that a topic we should look at? All right, I'm going to close the poll. Thank you. All right. Well, those were both positive. I think people should look at the draft and make comments. I know I looked at it and I have some comments, so I will put those. But thank you for the draft and the presentation.
Thank you.
I put myself in the queue. As a participant, is this thing on? You hear me?
We hear you.
Just use the mic down here.
Okay. Just I voted yes on the last poll. Just because for me it's too early to say that it's not a topic that we would want to work on. I have to think about it a little bit more and reread the draft. But well, decided to vote yes for now. Okay. I'm going to represent a presentation that was given by Rick Taylor, today absent, and Lou Berger in the room. In March 2021, when we were in the middle of the COVID period and all our meetings were online, I asked whether they agreed to that. They said I didn't need to ask them for permission, but they were okay with me reusing their slides. So here we go. Why is this now suddenly relevant again? Well, you will see that in the 4.5 years that have passed, the issues that were identified in this presentation have not really been addressed, maybe with the exception of one errata. And why now? Because I've been in contact with a couple of radio manufacturers who have expressed interest in implementing DLAP on the radio/modem side of the DLAP protocol. However, they are complaining that the spec is difficult to read, difficult to interpret, or ambiguous in a few places. And some of these things are also called out in the presentation that Rick and Lou gave 4.5 years ago. Unfortunately, those people are not too familiar with the IETF, and they are now talking about doing their own spec. And I would not like to see that happen. I have been trying to point out to them that we have a process for dealing with errata, and if this transcends a simple errata, then we could look at doing an additional document, like a BIS document of the current RFC 8175, which is the basic spec for DLAB, or some kind of updating document with clarifications and corrections. So with that, I'll enter into the original presentation by Rick and Lou. And already in 2021, they were saying there's operational and implementation experience. And this has highlighted some issues and inconsistencies. And there's a sorry to Stan Radcliffe and Bo Berry, who are among the authors of RFC 8175, and they are sadly no longer with us. So the issues, lack of clarity on metrics. Yes, I was reading 8175 myself, and then it's even not clear if you are sending a destination up or destination update. What it's not really spelled out what the TX and RX sites are. For instance, it says you have a TX data rate and an RX data rate, but from whose point of view? Lack of clarity of multicast behavior. Yes, I found that too. And there's even an earlier presentation from IETF 105, which was also in Montreal here, by Lou, which highlights a few of these points. You can find it at the URL that's shown there. Incorrect behavior when responding to a peer discovery signal. That's an erratum that has been dealt with. Don Fedek has provided some replacing tests, so that one is out of the way now. Transaction handling rules causing unnecessary session resets. Yes, that will be explained in the later slides. And excessive session resets due to relatively benign errors. Okay, yeah. Maximum data rate. Yes, that tripped up a colleague of mine recently who thought that if there was a difference between the current data rate and the maximum data rate, that was headroom for him to send faster. But it should be pointed out that data rate is something completely different from throughput. So yeah, that could be clarified. The relative link quality, personally, I don't care too much about that one, not really using it. But it's pretty hard to use that one if you have multiple radios connected to a router, because one radio's relative link quality is unrelated to another one, another radio's relative link quality. Resources, yeah, okay. I've never seen much actual use for those, but in any case, if something is unclear in the spec, then it should be fixed. Yeah, multicast behavior. That's true. There's not always a direct MAC relation between the multicast MAC and the multicast IP address. The second one is even more relevant. What do you do if you receive a multicast destination message? Yeah, do you send the destination up for the source, or does it impact the data path in any way? There's some issues, but that would go too far to go into that now. So let's just note them as issues. Transaction sequencing. Yes. The RFC describes some strict order to requests and responses. What if something comes in between? Like so. I'm not quite sure myself whether we should really in the specification cater for all these possibilities. An implementer would have to deal with this, but other people may have different opinions of this. But I think if you want to completely specify this, then you end up with a lot of finite state machines in your specification. But yeah, we can discuss that. More collisions. The modem detects that the destination is no longer there, so it sends the destination to the router. But at the same time, the router has done a link characteristics request. So they each expect to have a reply message, and they get something else, and that results in session resets, and that should not be necessary. A few more of these cases. I'm sure these are not even exhaustive. We can get strange repeating patterns. Yeah. So it's up for those questions in how far you have to go in really go into the detail of all these cases in a spec document, or assume that an implementer can deal with it. But again, up for discussion. Excessive session resets, yes, that is something that has been seen as well. Sometimes you can just ignore an unexpected or message or something that's not completely that has not completely the right data items in the message. Some more examples of things that need not really kill your session. Then, what were the proposed next steps at that time? We addressed the errata, so that was done. And then there's the statement that for the working group to publish an update document to RFC 81775 to be preferred over doing a BIS document. And here I have to consult Lou if he can walk down memory lane and give me a clue why that was.
Lou Berger, frankly, I don't remember why we did at that time. I can give you my answer now, which may or may not have been the same. I just don't remember.
Yeah. Well,
if you do a BIS, you subject the whole document to review by the ISG, every part of it. And if you do an update, just the part that's being changed is subject to review. So from a ISG review process, it's much easier to do an update than a BIS. And I suspect that if we did a BIS, they would have problems with many parts of the document that we really don't want to touch.
Okay, so you think they may relitigate all sorts of things that.
Yes.
Yes. I would say, on the other hand, for an implementer to have two documents and then crisscross between them and see how one modifies the other is maybe not the best solution.
It's pretty easy to say, here's what you do, and make sure that it's sufficient in the update.
Okay.
Shri Gundavali, Cisco. Yeah, thank you for this presentation. So one question, why not 8175 BIS, given that at least in Cisco has implemented this few years back, we have some deployment feedback, right? Is it time to revise this spec and go for 8175 BIS? What's your view on that?
Okay. Is Cisco ready to contribute the issues that they have found?
It takes some efforts, honestly. That needs to be coordinated. I cannot confirm at this time, but I'm just curious. If not Cisco, even others, if you have some deployment feedback, I'm just wondering why not go for a complete update?
Hmm.
Just, yeah.
I would be inclined to go that way, but I note what Lou is saying, and there is a risk of a prolonged IESG discussion on that. But yeah, but any input on identified issues would be highly welcome.
Sure. Thanks.
Thank you.
Luber, again, I don't feel strongly about this. It might have been something that Rick put there. Might be worth asking him.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
frankly, it's a little irrelevant what the comment was 4 years ago. Whatever the working group wants is what we should do.
Right. But you're part of the working group, so your voice counts.
I don't feel strongly if you have people who are willing to do the work. And if you have
Right.
people that are willing to do the work, those that hold the pen should, in my opinion, get a larger sway.
Agreed. And that brings us neatly to my next slide. So now we're in November 2025. We have these radio manufacturers knocking on our door, so to speak. So the discussion that we just started now and will continue on the list. Although if more people want to say something, they're welcome to do so. We have plenty of time, I guess. Is then between an update document and a BIS document. Who wants to work on this? Me. I hope I'm not the only one.
Do you want to, I just put myself in the queue. Do you want to run a poll on this too? Well, we've got the people in the.
Let's then run a poll on the second question. Who wants to work on this?
Okay, well, we were asking, is it a topic for the working group to work on? And then who wants to work on it?
Fine.
Okay, so first the topic. Okay. It's what's the RFC? 18175.
This is Donald. I guess I just would say the abstract that BISs are cleaner.
Okay, so I opened the poll. Is this a topic that we think the work group should work on?
Not in this question.
Not in this question. Yeah, I'm not trying to differentiate.
So the question is, do we do something about the issues that we have been identified, or leave the situation as it is.
Okay, I'm going to close that, and then I'm going to ask if there's people that are willing to contribute.
Can you be a little more tighter on that? Are you saying author?
Okay.
Comment?
Offer contributions. How's that? People will. I think Ronald offered to be an author, but we need
I would suggest
contributions.
the thing that is most important here is identifying people who are willing to hold the pen.
Okay.
You might have people like me that will chime in, offer opinions, and maybe offer author a section, but I don't want to hold the pen on the document. So those are, and you need people to hold the pen.
Understood, but at this stage of the long history of this working group, people willing to review are also hold in high regard, I would say, because they're rare.
All right. I'm going the question right now is, are you willing to author content for the update of RFC 8175? How's that? Okay. This one, only one person is willing to author so far. You know, it's a high-paying position, right?
It just means that it will take longer. But,
All right. Thank you.
so are you going to ask more questions, like who is somebody willing to review, or are you going to ask, should we go for an update document or a base document?
We've got time, but do you think we're going to have to repeat it on the mailing list? I
Sure.
think.
Lou Berger again. The working group is contribution driven. So I suggest that the one person who voted yes or said yes, go do what they think they should want to do and submit it as an individual draft, and then the working group can talk about it.
All right.
Fair enough.
And we have, oh, sorry, I thought I saw somebody in the list. Does anyone else want to comment? Stuart?
Sure, I was in the queue and then out and then jumped back in again. I agree with what Lou said. We'll put a slightly different twist on it. I think when the author starts writing, the author is eventually going to realize how much he's had to write. And if it was only a little, then an update makes sense, especially if it can contain clear references to the original document to not confuse implementors. Whereas if it gets out of hand, then it becomes obvious we need a BIS. So I think this question will answer itself.
I will report back on whether that's really the case. But you might be right.
Okay.
What I will try to do at least is. Oh, Christopher, go ahead. Christopher?
Sorry, forgot to unmute my speaker. If you're talking about an update, it would help a lot for someone, not me, if the original XML source code were available.
I did not quite get that, sorry.
The question was, is the original XML source code of the RFC available for whoever's going to work on it?
Yeah, that should be the case. Yeah.
That often makes actually updating easier than that might make a BIS easier than the alternative.
Yes. True. Maybe even the original Markdown, but that would be harder to get because if it was written in Markdown in the first place. We'll see. Yeah, I will look for an opportunity to pick Rick Taylor's brain about some of the issues that were in the original presentation, especially the multicast thing. Lou?
You might want to also look at the LLDLEP repo that's out there.
Yes.
I remember I believe I put in a pull request to address a bunch of the issues that were discussed. I don't remember whether it was merged or not. I do remember having a conversation with David, the author of that repo, who unfortunately is no longer with us also.
Yes.
I remember discussing it with him, and he said, well, that's not what the spec says. And I'm like, yeah, but from a practical standpoint, is what you have to do. And I don't remember where he ended up, if he merged or not, but it's worth going and looking at the repo to see what issues have been open against it and what pull requests there are.
I had been wanting to extend this presentation a little bit with a practical part because I'm using that library in conjunction with eMain, the extendable mobile Ad-hoc Network emulator, and an abandoned shim layer for eMain that puts a DLAP shim on top of the radio model and makes use of Dave and yours LLDLAP library.
I made very little changes to it.
Yeah, but you're still on GitHub as one of the contributors, I think.
Fair.
So I'm using that stuff and I'm finding things while doing that. So I am familiar with that work, and that helps me think about what should be changed in RFC. Thank you.
Okay. Is that all topics?
That was my last slide.
Okay. Do we have any other comments from anybody in the meeting? If not, thank you for attending, and we'll see you in Shenzhen or on the list. Yeah.
You have those, they're on me, they're there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we'll have to repeat the questions, like, as I guess added to the polls because there was people that couldn't attend, right?
Yeah.
There's only 40 minutes.
No, we started at a little.
No, we were an hour.
70 minutes. An hour and 10 minutes. Okay.
No,
Should you type even slower?
no, you want to be excited. Excited.
Afraid it's gone.
Should be.
Oh, yes.
Yes, please. Yeah.